Today we are reacting to chilling scares. Right, we're reacting to killers who didn't know they were being recorded. And if y'all don't know, I just ended my last stream because I was doing too much in it. And yeah, now we're just reacting. Let's get started.
On the morning of June 11, 2021, CCTV cameras across Wembley, London captured a woman walking around with a large...
Wait, where's London? London, Paris, Amsterdam. England, okay.
blue suitcase. On the surface, the footage is completely ordinary. However, this footage would soon become key evidence in one of the most brutal crimes in Wembley's recent history. The incident took place...
Wait, so... Alright, I'm gonna put my prediction. Keep in mind, this came out a day ago. I didn't watch this. I'm assuming that they broke in, right? Pummeled their face in. And they didn't know they were being recorded. And in that CCTV, they were coming out of the building, right? And covered in blood.
The evening of June 11, when the Metropolitan Police received a call from a man in distress. He was a temporary resident at a house on Chaplin Road, and according to him, the owner of the house, a 67-year-old woman who went by Deborah, was missing. Her phone and glasses, the two things she always kept on her, were also still in the house. But what made her absence most concerning was the fact that Deborah had a history of severe mental health struggles. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and at one point believed that Prince Charles, along with the country's prime minister, were communicating with her through YouTube. Deborah also had no family in the country.
Wait. So, she went missing. Is she the killer? I've never heard of that. So, she went missing with her phone and glasses. No, without her phone. She was like schizophrenic. Alright.
She could have gone to either. The only people who knew her were those who attended the same church as she did. And speaking with people from the church gave investigators their first lead. One of Deborah's friends, 37-year-old Gemma Mitchell, told officers that Deborah had been depressed and that she went to stay with friends close to the ocean. Unfortunately, this lead turned out to be a dead end, as none of the CCTV cameras around her home captured her leaving that morning. Investigators also didn't find any records of her using a taxi service or public transport. After 2 more weeks of fruitless searching, investigators had nearly run out of all potential leads. They needed a breakthrough, or the case risked going unsolved forever. Fortunately, the search finally reached its end on June 27, but in the way investigators feared most.
Well, I was about to say that's good, but never mind.
Hi, I just found a body. Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency? I just found a body. Right, okay. A body, is it... Are they breathing? No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something.
A hiker discovered the remains of Deborah on a wooden path next to Bennett Road in Sulcombe, Devon, over 200 miles from her home in Wembley. The worst part about this discovery, however, was the condition investigators found her in. This wasn't a case of going for a hike and having an accident. Instead, someone had surgically decapitated her head, which was later discovered about 30 feet away from the rest of her body. Autopsy results also showed signs of blunt force trauma to the head. With that, the case shifted from a missing person search to a homicide investigation. However, finding the culprit was going to be easier said than done, largely because Deborah never gave anyone a reason to take her life. Despite her mental health struggles, everyone who knew her described her as...
Alright, so my prediction was wrong. I'm sorry, y'all. That was disrespectful.
...extremely kind and compassionate. She was even letting the temporary resident who filed the missing person report live with her for free since he couldn't afford to pay rent. But while investigating those closest to her, investigators noticed something suspicious about Gemma. CCTV cameras captured Gemma walking toward Deborah's home with a blue suitcase on the morning of June 11, the same day she went missing at around 6:30 a.m. Hours later, the same cameras captured Gemma walking back, this time with 2 suitcases. She was also struggling more to roll the suitcases, suggesting that, unlike before, they were now heavy. This made Gemma the primary suspect in Deborah's murder.
Now that's some great investigation skills though, y'all. Like, hold on one second, I gotta pull it up on my phone. That's impressive.
prompting investigators to look into her more closely, which turned out to be the right move. On the 26th of June, CCTV cameras captured her struggling to load the same blue suitcases into the back of a rental car. She then drove to the same road where Deborah's remains were found a day later. This was enough evidence for the police to obtain a warrant and arrest Gemma on July 6.
Police! Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. There's no answer. Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, I'm asleep.
Are you Gemma?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Gemma. Just put your hands second.
Sure, sure.
This is the most polite police
Gemma,
raid
do you want to come
ever.
up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just trying to say them.
Hand just over to your hands. All right, Gemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder.
Gemma didn't even try to plead her innocence and went with the officers without any resistance, almost as if she was already expecting them to some extent. She also remained silent at the station, answering every question with a cold no comment. But now that she was under arrest, authorities were able to search her home, and it wasn't long before everything became clear. You see, Gemma lived with her mother in their home on Bronsbury Park. The house was worth over £4 million, but it was in rough shape. So they hired a contractor and
Wait, how much is that? £4 million. That's $5 million. That's That's crazy.
paid him over £230,000 for the renovations. Unfortunately, the contractor ran away with the money, leaving Gemma and her mother with an incomplete home and no money to fix it. That's where Deborah stepped in. She knew Gemma from church and considered her a friend. So after learning about her struggle, Deborah offered to pay over £200,000 for the renovations. However,
That's crazy. Nah, shout out. Shout out Deborah, though.
in early 2021, Deborah was admitted to a mental facility where she received treatment for her schizophrenia. This treatment seemed to be very effective, as she was now thinking a lot more clearly. It also resulted in her reconsidering her offer to Gemma and withdrawing it completely by early June. She instead told Gemma to sell the house and use the money to live a good life. Phone records revealed a message she sent to Gemma on June 8, reading, "Until you sold house, I won't want you to come to me or my house. I'm stressed to the core." However, Gemma did not take this kindly, and on the 11th of June, she went to Deborah's home with the intention of ending her life. After committing the crime, she stuffed Deborah's remains in the suitcase and brought it back home, which is why it looked much heavier on the way back, before disposing of her remains in Solcombe 2 weeks later. Her true motive also came to light when investigators discovered a forged will in Gemma's home, naming her and her mother as the sole beneficiaries of Deborah's entire estate. All of this was more than enough evidence to convict Gemma. She stood trial on October 2022 and was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 34 years behind bars.
Nah, that's crazy. I hope she stays in there for the rest of her life. That's just wicked. Rest in peace, Deborah.
On July 7th, 2021, 23-year-old Chandler Halderson went to the local sheriff's office and filed a missing person report for his parents, 50-year-old Bart and 53-year-old Krista. According to Chandler, the two had gone to their family cabin in White Lake on July 2nd to spend the weekend. The last contact he had with them was a message from Krista writing, "Made it safely, can't get anything through, and yes, it's packed. Going to White Lake today for the parade, and we'll come home Monday night/Tuesday early. Love you lots." It was Wednesday now, and the two had still not returned. Their phones were also going straight to voicemail, leaving Chandler with no way to determine their current whereabouts. Now, the simplest explanation was that they simply decided to extend their stay, and that they weren't able to inform Chandler because of the bad cell signal at the cabin, which was a known issue. However, this was completely out of character for them. Bart was extremely punctual and responsible, and Krista was on the verge of losing her job if she didn't return soon. Chandler was understandably worried about the safety of his parents. To make matters more complicated, they didn't go to the cabin on their own. Instead, they were apparently picked up by friends that Chandler didn't know about. Officers quickly began looking for the couple while Chandler reached out to local media, hoping someone with information on Bart and Krista might come forward. The most obvious place to look for them was the cabin, but when officers arrived at the location, they were surprised to see it completely empty.
Oh, wait, never mind. I was about to make a theory, but then I realized that this is killers, so. Yeah, never mind. Never mind. Forget about it. Forget about
They
it.
had to break open the front door only to find zero signs of recent activity. It seemed like Bart and Krista never made
Maybe
it
they
to the
crashed.
cabin. But if that was the case, why did Krista tell Chandler that they made it safely in her text? In the meantime, Chandler turned to the neighbors to check if any of their doorbell cameras captured anything about Bart and Krista. But that didn't prove very useful either. Without any other leads, investigators went back to the Halderson home to look for any clues. They also brought Chandler in for questioning since he was the last person who saw the couple. Though, until now, Chandler appeared to be a perfect son. Despite living with his parents, Chandler was doing very well for himself. He had already gained valuable work experience in several different fields at just 23 years old.
23? Hey, shout out him. That's
And
pretty
even received a job
successful.
offer from SpaceX. Unfortunately, before he could accept the offer, he accidentally fell down the stairs. This resulted in him sustaining severe nerve damage in the legs, forcing him to reject the SpaceX offer and focus on recovery. He had also been very cooperative with the police.
Wait, SpaceX is Elon Musk, right? Drop content. Alright, bet. I'll watch this next.
Until this point. But as it turned out, the concerned look on his face was nothing but a complete lie. His behavior
Actually, I'm just gonna watch
started
it
becoming
next. I'm gonna watch
suspicious
it
as
next
soon as
stream.
he was brought in for questioning. Not realizing he was being recorded, Chandler was seen in the interrogation room putting his head up against the wall, almost as if he was trying to listen in on what the detectives knew, likely so he could adjust his story accordingly. The investigator
Wait, are the walls that thin in police stations?
searching his home
Because I thought they were like cinder blocks, so they couldn't do that.
also discovered some rather concerning evidence. This included things like missing floor tiles and cabinets from the kitchen, a broken glass pane from the
There's no way right now. What do you mean?
fireplace, and most concerningly, splatters of recently cleaned blood all throughout the house. However, Chandler seemed to have an excuse for everything.
Wait, how could they find the blood splatters? Yeah, there's no way they're that thin. How could they see clean up blood splatters though? Cause that looks blue. That don't look like blood.
Recently cleaned blood all throughout the house.
But you know,
However,
I guess it's the official stuff. So
Chandler seemed to have an excuse for everything. He blamed the missing tiles and cabinets on renovations, and claimed the fireplace glass broke while playing with one of his dogs using a tennis ball. As for the blood, Chandler claimed that it came from Krista having excessive nosebleeds, and from Bart getting a deep cut on his leg while doing...
there's no way that the yo. Never mind. But y'all saw how much blood there was. Like, look.
from the rather consistently cleaned
That's not just from nosebleeds.
excessive nosebleeds, and from Bart getting a deep cut on his leg while doing some repair work at home.
Maybe it's from that.
But investigators were starting to notice some inconsistencies in his statements. For instance, at one point during the interview, Chandler claimed that he couldn't drive because of his leg injuries. But not long after, he mentioned driving to multiple places to celebrate the 4th of July holiday. However, despite their suspicion, investigators had no
Getting my
proof of
abs back. Day 3, I lost them. I never had abs, so, proud of you, man.
any foul play from Chandler. That is, until they received a call from a woman named Cress. She was a family acquaintance of Chandler's girlfriend, Catherine, and the two had actually gone to her place for dinner on the 4th of July. According to Cress, Chandler visited her farm in Cottage Grove on July 3rd, asking to use her pool. She said yes and went on with her day. But when she came back to check on him an hour later, he wasn't in the pool. Instead, his car was backed up to a wooded area next to the farm, and its trunk was open. Investigators rushed to the location.
Yo. This may be a shot in the dark, but I think he killed them and dumped them in the woods. To his own parents, that's crazy. That's a terrible thing
She
to do.
provided. And not far into the wooded area, they found the dismembered remains of Bart Halderson, wrapped in a tarp
He killed his parents.
and hidden under some foliage. Around the same time, a different group of investigators
Oh
discovered
no, he killed his dad, like there. His dad's Bart. I forgot what his mom's name is, but they haven't found the mom's body yet.
doorbell camera footage that showed the Halderson home in plain view. According to this footage, Bart and Krista never stepped foot outside on the morning
Krista.
of July 2nd. In other words, the story of the mystery friends picking them up was a complete lie. But when confronted with this evidence, Chandler stopped talking and asked for a lawyer.
You know what happened. We're not going to tell you what happened. You know what happened. You were there when it happened.
I don't know why he killed them yet. The last person that talks about killed the lady for the will. But yeah, we'll find out in a sec.
We're not BSing you, okay?
I wasn't there when it happened today.
We know more
I
than you think we know. Okay?
understand. But
There's people that have told us things. We have evidence. We have proof. More has happened. Okay.
No, this dude's actually a loser.
So your parents never made it to the cabin, and I think you know that.
You.
I like
Just
the
you.
popping corgi.
Building your app
That's tough. Shout out Base 44.
on base 44.
Okay. So you're asking for an attorney. We're not going to ask any more questions.
it's him.
Now that's how you know he's guilty. Because he's asking for an attorney. So he could lie.
Go stand up.
You want to stand up?
Krista's remains were later discovered in an area near the Wisconsin River as well. Fortunately, investigators were able to
Rest
find
in
enough
peace.
evidence to piece together exactly what
Base 44 sponsor him. Facts. I shout him out in like every video I do.
happened between Chandler and his parents, and why. They found Bart and Krista's phones inside the house, wrapped in aluminum foil to block signals, confirming they never left the
You spelled sponsor wrong. It's SPONSOR.
home. Shell casings found in the basement also confirmed that he more than likely shot his parents before dismembering and disposing of their remains.
That's wicked.
CCTV footage from a nearby supermarket caught him buying the tarp he used to transport Bart. However, the worst of what he did was revealed when investigators found tiny bone fragments in his fireplace. You see, at around 3 a.m. the night of, a neighbor's
Oh, my bad.
doorbell camera captured a strange light coming from the Haldersons' home. It got extremely bright before going out. Put simply, this bright light his neighbor's camera captured came from Chandler trying to cremate his parent.
Dang, so he tried burning them.
But the fire likely got out of hand and shattered the glass pane, resulting in him abandoning that idea. As for why he committed such a horrific crime, that had to do with his successful career. As it turned out, almost all of it was a lie. He never graduated, never did any jobs he claimed to have done, and thus the offer from SpaceX was a lie as well. Bart apparently found out about it, and instead of facing the consequences of his years-long lie, Chandler decided that it was a better idea to take his parents' lives instead.
Nah, that dude's a loser. Like, how could you do that to your own parents? That's wicked. And he decided to keep that lie going for that long. And whenever he found out, like, whenever his parents found out that was wrong, he just did that to them. Killed his parents because they found out he was a failure. Nah, facts. That's crazy. Rest in peace to them.
He stood trial in January 2022 and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. On the night of December 28, 2016, a home security camera mounted outside a garage in
Dang. 2016 was a good year. I missed that year.
Albuquerque, New Mexico, captured a seemingly bizarre scenario. It showed a hooded figure walk out of the darkness, gently tip over a trash can, and then disappear into the darkness once again. Not long after, the resident of the home noticed the trash can and came to pick it back up before walking back inside. The camera then captured the light from the garage door getting dimmer as it closed. But before it closed all the way, the door seemed to open again with a flashing light illuminating the driveway.
That means that somebody got under it, right, and stopped it from going. Oh, that's crazy.
This looked quite random at first glance. However, what happened in this footage served as the start to a brutally violent crime that happened in the same house. The story began earlier that night when 54-year-old Don Fluid
Don't
dropped
tell me they killed the kid. That's sad.
Off his daughter
That's messed
Sienna
up.
at his now ex-wife Christine's house. The next day, Sienna called Don's office, asking if he'd come to work that day. Apparently, he called Sienna every night to say goodnight, but he didn't call the night before, which worried her. And something was definitely not right. Don had never missed work without prior notice before. His phone was also ringing, but he wasn't picking up, which was very out of character for him. Many considered him the most upstanding person they knew, and it wasn't like him to ghost others out of nowhere. So, two of his co-workers decided to check up on him at his house that afternoon. However, when they reached the front door, it swung open. It was already unlocked. They called out Don's name, but when they heard no response, they decided to go inside. Everything in the house looked very normal. That is, until one of the co-workers went to the garage. There, she spotted a dark red streak on the wall behind the parked truck.
Oh.
She stepped closer to take a better look, only to come across what she was dreading the most. She called 911 and...
Bro, I'm glad that all these people were brought to justice. Because just think, like, the people out there, right, that didn't get caught, that aren't in these videos, they're still out there today. Probably doing the same exact stuff. And just living their life. Happily. But they deserve to all
First
be in jail.
responders rushed to the scene. Sadly, it was already too late for Don. He had several cuts on his body, a deep cut on his neck, and signs of blunt force trauma to his face. By the time his coworkers found him, he had already been dead for several hours. The Albuquerque police immediately launched a murder investigation.
You want to know why we created this backpack for a Formula One team? Spite. For
Shout out
over a decade, backpack companies ruled the corporate world
us/bags/Mercedes.
and challenged.
Oh,
Telling us you
Mercedes.
can make a
Shout out
backpack
Mercedes.
without...
However, the only clue they had was this home security footage. It wasn't clear enough to make out the suspect's face, but the footage did suggest the intruder knew Don's habits quite well. He knew his daily routine, and more importantly, he knew Don wouldn't be able to ignore the trash can if it were lying on the ground, giving him the chance to sneak into the garage.
What if it was the wife? Yo, wait. Let's analyze the...
It wasn't clear enough to make out the suspect's face.
That could be a girl in a bag of clothes.
But the footage did differently. He knew Don wouldn't be able to ignore the trash can if it were lying on the ground, giving him the chance to sneak into the garage while Don picked it back up. This wasn't a random burglar or serial killer who just saw an opportunity. It was likely someone close to Don. Unfortunately, figuring out who this person was turned out to be near impossible. The first suspect police questioned was Terry Lee White, Christine's now husband. Given Don's history of an intense custody battle against Christine and Terry in the past, investigators began to look for any lingering resentment that could have boiled over into violence. However, when questioned, Terry was able to provide alibis for that night that completely checked out.
Duck Wizard. What's up, Duck Wizard? How you doing? Guess who? Yeah, I don't know.
The next two potential suspects were Don's brother Dennis, who didn't have the best relationship with Don, and the landlord Benny Ruiz. But while neither had a strong alibi, there was also no evidence linking the two to the crime scene. With that, the investigation was back at square one.
Wait, how are you on a different account? Why are you on a different account?
It wasn't until March 31,
Appreciate you for the
2017
follow,
that
though.
the killer was identified at
Wait.
square one. It wasn't until March 31, 2017 that the killer was identified.
Dang, so it took him a whole year to figure it out.
It turns out the person who led detectives to the truth was none other than Don himself. You see, despite likely getting ambushed by the killer, Don did not go down easy. He
Mom thinks I'm asleep, but really I'm on the pad. Hey, it's I beat.
fought back and ended up scratching the attacker. This allowed investigators to find foreign DNA under his fingernails and match it against the samples police had taken from the suspects. More than 3 months after the crime, Don's killer was finally identified as 51-year-old Terry Lee White. After clocking in at work as a commercial truck driver, Terry went to Don's place and carried out a plan he had likely been thinking over for a very long time. With the home
Can I catch a mod real quick? Yeah, I got you. There you go.
security footage of him sneaking in Don's driveway, showing how premeditated this whole thing was. After a brief manhunt, Terry was arrested on
Wait, this was the lady's husband, right? That's crazy.
April 3rd, 2017 in Arizona, about 200 miles from Albuquerque. He stood trial in June 2018 for his crime and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Man, that's sad. That was Chilling Scares. Killers who didn't realize they were being recorded. That's tough. That's tough. React to my vid. I'm gonna react to it tomorrow. I already said that. I gotta. Only been live for 25, but you also gotta think about the stream that just ended. You know what I mean? Oh, where even is that? Yeah, that was 30 minutes. Type beat. You can split this into multiple YT vids. Put it on another channel. Nah, bro, I'm getting tired. Type beat. Or the live channel with the other one. Not the live channel. Hey, we'll do it tomorrow, alright, big bro? But that was Chillin' Scares. Mixed with love channel for love and make another one. Alright, love you. Hey, love you too, man. Thank y'all for watching the stream, right? If you enjoyed this and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment with a friend, share with your creepy teacher. Lily. Oh, okay. Like, how do you say it? But if you're watching on Twitch, make sure you type in chat like he's doing right now. Make sure that follow button. Try to get to 100 followers. Lily. Alright, type B. What's up? Or you can call me Lolo. Type B. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. And if you if y'all are enjoying the streams, just make sure you interact with it as much as you can. Make clips, whatever you want to do. And I hope y'all have a great night. Great rest of your night. Stay safe, stay blessed, and God bless. Good night, y'all.